Welcome everybody to Hormones and Health Summit. We are bringing you information you have not heard from your doctor. Our guests are top-notch experts talking on how to achieve hormonal health, increase your energy in your body and your mind by improving your focus, and also how to hit that ideal weight. So it is all about your health and your empowerment and really getting that information that will change your life if you take it to heart and take the action steps we're talking about. So I am very excited to introduce our guest today, Petra Laws. And Petra is going to be revealing the truth about hormones today. So let me tell you a little bit about Petra. She is a certified health and hormone coach, women's health educator, and international speaker. She learned at the foundation of the metabolic health and hormonal imbalance is our blood sugar. And she wants to help women find wellness through the healing power of nutrition and holistic healing. Petra believes it is possible to feel better tomorrow than you do today, and she wants to equip women to experience that freedom so that they can feel their best and live long and healthy lives. What a beautiful mission. Petra is a firm believer that one of the best things you can do to live a healthier life is to change how you fuel your body with food. Her approach to her clients is centered on the idea of bio-individuality. Each person has unique needs. Her goal is to make you confident, vibrant, and healthier in mind, body, and spirit through simple lifestyle changes, and her education combining her Finnish heritage, corporate background, as well as her travels around the world. Wow. So I'm so excited to welcome Petra to the show.
Welcome. Thank you very much. I'm very excited to be there. Thank you very much for having me.
Absolutely. This is going to be a great conversation. So Petra, you have a really empowering and moving personal story, and tell us more about it. What inspires you to be so passionate about women's health?
Well, we most of our the holistic and educators, we have our personal story, and mine was obviously about the hormones, which I did not know at the time. So my hormones failed me in my mid-30s after I had my son. I started to get very unexplained symptoms of fatigue, the weight that despite all the exercise and eating right, it wouldn't shift. I was cranky, I was moody, which is nothing like my personality normally. And I started to get this adult acne. My face was covered and obviously I looked horrible, I felt horrible. But on top of that, I had these stomach aches, and I didn't know that it was the liver and gallbladder pains, but I started to have these pains under my right rib cage. And I also developed fibroids, which led to a very heavy bleeding, to the point that the doctor suggested hysterectomy. So I'm sure that my story is not unique, but after months of running from specialist to specialist, trying to find some answers, I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. And they said that there's nothing wrong with me; it's all in my head. And they sent me away with 2 prescriptions, antidepressants, and the pill. And obviously, like I mentioned, possible hysterectomy. Also, I was told to eat less and exercise more. So I took the matters in my own hands. I started researching, I started studying. And after I found a holistic doctor who prescribed me the right test, the dots sort of started to connect. I had messed up hormones, which I didn't have an idea at the time, because I thought that the hormones are something that we go through when we have anything to do when we are teenagers and when we're pregnant. But my hormones were absolutely out of range. My gut was inflamed. My detox pathways were not functioning properly. And I was borderline pre-diabetic. And I thought that I was leading a healthy life. So having a very academic background, I left my corporate job and I dove into studies and qualified as a health and hormone coach in IIN. And I have never looked back since. I feel so much better now in my late 40s than I did in my 20s. And needless to say, I didn't accept hysterectomy. My hormones are balanced, and I have abundant energy and the ideal weight without any pill prescriptions or any of the suggestions, the little suggestions which I had from the mainstream doctors. Since that, I have realized that there's so much misinformation out there. So many women who feel the same. And more I started to talk about, first I was really ashamed. Initially, I was like, what's wrong with me? But I started to talk about it, and then women started to come to me, first my friends and other women. They saw such a drastic difference in me that I developed this passion to educate other women, because I don't want anybody to feel like so hopeless and desperate like I did in that situation. And also for them to know that it's not okay to feel that way, and it's not okay to accept what the doctors are telling you, if they're telling you that there's nothing wrong with you. So I always say that do your research. There is help available there. Because health is made so complicated nowadays. Even if you do your research, there's so much information out there. So do this and do that. And it just leads to this confusion. But improving your health and hormones is really just going back to basics. I wish that someone told me earlier in my life that if a person is not sleeping night after night, and if the person is never getting sun or getting sun very little, and not making good food choices, the right food is the backbone of the hormones you make. And if they told me that you don't have to be afraid of fat, consuming healthy fat is especially critical to long-term hormonal balance. And in order to feel full, to eat clean protein in every single meal. And it's all about what to eat, when to eat, and how to eat. And if they told me that don't eat late and don't have that glass of wine to lower your stress levels, and don't have that coffee in the empty stomach to wake you up because you otherwise I was so tired, and don't eat those processed foods and sugar. I just cannot emphasize enough how important this information would have been to me when I was feeling my lowest. So there's no hope if you're doing those things. It's just simple changes, really. So looking after yourself and paying attention to small lifestyle changes, you can do wonders to your health and hormones. This is why my passion is really to educate women that there is so much you can do to balance your hormones naturally, and not to blindly turn into this HRT and pill and other medications, because it's not the only way. We have been conditioned in this fast-paced society to learn that everything happens so fast. There's pill for every ill, and once you take that pill, you feel so much better, whatever pill that is. And we are so impatient to look for anything else. So holistic approach in general, it's not instant, but when you are consistent and start feeling better, it changes your life totally, like it did mine.
Well, thank you so much for that. And you brought up so many important points that we also, exploring in this summit. Simple changes in nutrition. It does not have to, I want to stress that it's so important that taking care of your health, and when it comes to hormonal balance especially, it does not have to be a complex, complicated issue where you have to do a tons of research and then take tons of medication and supplements and hormone balancing substances, because it really starts from the ground up. And how we eat, when we eat, right? These are all super important factors, and still in the medical mainstream are not being stressed or told women. So I so appreciate you bringing that up. And so let's delve a little deeper into hormones. And so first, basic question, like why hormonal health is different for women than it is for men?
Very good question. And so often we don't realize, we think that we all function the same. So there's fundamental biological difference between men and women. To start, a man goes through their whole hormonal cycle in 24 hours, whereas for women, it takes 28 days approximately, give or take. So just to start with that, it lays the foundations of the whole hormonal difference. When I turned 40, my metabolism was becoming out of whack. So I started put on weight more and more, and my metabolic health was declining. Although I didn't know it at the time, I thought that I was already leading a healthy life. I had balanced my hormones. I had done everything right. But again, going through the perimenopause, things change constantly, and so does your metabolic health. So having read and learned about the ketogenic diet, which is very popular, we embarked a ketogenic diet with my husband, and he drops very quickly 20 pounds, lots of weight. I lost a very little, even though I cooked the foods, I made everything, and then I started gradually gain weight. I was demoralized. I didn't understand why was that happening. And again, I dove in the research, and I realized that, wow, the ketogenic diet was developed by a male physician, like so many other diets, and it was also tested on men. So the kind of ketogenic diet we were doing was obviously that. So most of research has been done in men, in especially looking at diets and metabolism. So even though I support keto living or low carb living as a cornerstone in my practice, in my view, in my metabolic health, now I understand, after doing all that research, that women are more sensitive to carbohydrate and calorie restrictions than men are. So too much restriction and not enough fiber may lead to increased inflammation and raised cortisol, which happened to me, which leads us to hold on to fat. And obviously we are not then losing weight, and it leads to opposite effect, what we desire. When losing weight, men also have this testosterone advantage, because their testosterone levels are typically 10 times higher than women. And testosterone is responsible for increasing muscle mass. Men have more muscle mass, and therefore they burn more calories. But not to worry, there are lots of things that women can do to hack the metabolism once we know what to do and how to hack it, and get those hormones working for us rather than against us.
Beautiful. We're going to talk more about metabolic health today, obviously, because I think this is on people's minds, like, what should I eat? How should I eat it? This is huge. And thank you for bringing it up, that, women respond really differently to the diets. And that's why I think so much confusion and frustration comes from when we try so hard and it's just not working. And then you see your husband, right, losing weight and getting stronger and healthier. Like,
what is happening? What am I doing wrong?
What? Exactly. So wonderful. So let's delve deeper into hormones. And so what happens in the woman's body when those hormones go out of whack? Like you were saying, what happened to you when you're transitioning to your 40s?
So essentially, this sort of out of whack situation starts to happen in our, mid-30s. It's different for everyone because we're all different.
Yeah.
And it's the phase called perimenopause. And it's the slow, gradual decline in our ovaries function. So this leads to decreased progesterone and estrogen roller coaster. So they go out of balance what they used to be, and that leads to so many symptoms, including the dreaded hot flashes, uncomfortable changes in your period, more intense PMS, issues with sleep and mood, brain fog, vaginal changes, and so much more. So while perimenopause can start as early as 35, it's like I said, it's so different for every woman. But what we really aren't told by doctors is that it's a transitional period. It can last up to 10 years before the true menopause begins. But these perimenopausal changes, or the symptoms, they are very similar or the same than menopause, and often are talked about in menopausal symptoms. So there's a lot of confusion and perhaps misinformation or not enough information that there is this transitional period, which is quite long, leading to menopause. And recognizing that so many of my clients, for example, come to me and say that okay, I'm in menopause, and when I ask them the question that how about your period? You still have your period? Yes, I have my period, which means that they're not in menopause, because when you go full 12 months without the period, that's the official line that the menopause has begun. But they are sort of crossing over. The same symptoms start in your perimenopause, and then continue, sometimes worsen when you go to menopause because of the decline of these certain hormones. But because we're talking about weight, the hormones of metabolism affecting our weight are insulin, cortisol, leptin and ghrelin, thyroid, estrogen, testosterone, and growth hormone. So they are involved in thousands of micro communications and processes in our body. They govern your response to food, and in turn, food regulates the metabolic hormones. So it's kind of like a bi-directional process there. This is why I cannot emphasize enough that, having learned it hard way, it's so important what we put in our bodies and in the end of our fork. So the insulin is the most influential of these hormones when we are looking at the weight, which is like I like to always use the term doorman, that either opens or closes the door to glucose to enter your cells. So if your cells are now full of glucose, you have been eating too many carbs and too much sugar, which we don't even realize that we are doing. Our blood glucose rises, and it leads to insulin block called insulin resistance, which I'm sure that many of the listeners have heard, leading to fat accumulation. So that's, in short, how we start putting on weight. Mm-hmm. But that's not all. It's leads to prediabetes, premature aging, and other metabolic diseases like cancer. So it's not just the hormones and the weight gain, but there's other implications on that as well.
Okay, wow, great. Thank you so much for mentioning all those hormones. And I do want to talk more about sugar and insulin in a minute. But before we get there, because you mentioned several hormones that are really heavily involved in this process and when we transition into menopause. So how do we actually assess hormones in our levels? It's another really, I think, tricky issue for so many women.
Absolutely, great question. There are two types of people, some who are determined that they want to test, and some are not even aware that there's ways to test, because the mainstream doctors, they are not educated maybe enough into precision medicine. There's too many types, but I do two types of testing. So blood work, where you can see the testosterone, thyroid, insulin, and growth hormone. But then there's a Dutch test, which is called a dried urine testing. So that is it gives you so much more information, and unless you are trained to read that report, it's quite complicated. But it gives you basically the information which I use in my practice as well. It's not just the levels of the hormones, but metabolism and detoxification pathways of those hormones. Because, for example, estrogen, it is not just estrogen. There's lots of different types of estrogen, and how they're metabolized and how they detoxify. It's so important to know in order to approach how to then level this up. But again, like I said, testing is not always the first thought. It depends on a person whether they have done something to try to balance their hormones, or whether they are basically in the beginning of the phase. Testing is blood test is okay, but the Dutch test is quite costly. And if you haven't approached anything to do with your metabolic health, I would not always recommend to jump straight into it. Obviously, if the person likes to do it, absolutely, let's do it. Testing is always better than guessing, but there's so many other things that we can do to balance hormones naturally before we start jumping into testing. It is personal choice. It depends what the person is geared up to.
Mm-hmm. Okay, but I think you mentioned something very important, that we don't need to just jump into testing before we make changes, because it will give us much clearer picture about what's going on once we start making those changes in the diet, in lifestyle, right? And then if actually things are still out of whack and if you're still struggling, maybe there is some more precision testing required to really dig deeper into what's happening with the body.
Absolutely. And we're so lucky nowadays that there is so much testing, not just with hormones, but I often periodically wear the blood continuous blood glucose monitoring. You have the Aura rings, you have the Apple Watch, you have the Garmin, you can track your sleep, you can track everything, whatever you want. Again, it's up to a person how much precision they want to go. But again, doing these simple changes can make a world of difference. So whichever end of spectrum you want to go, and like you said, if with those changes, eating right and moving right and sleeping right and changing the lifestyle factors, if that doesn't do if it doesn't change how the person feels, then the testing is definitely there, and we're so lucky that we have the means of testing nowadays.
Okay, great. Yeah, thank you. This is very important, and I think I really would love everybody to hear that. So don't get scared that now you have to run to the doctor and spend thousands of dollars or money on your testing. First, just make simple, cheap changes.
Absolutely.
Doesn't cost anything to go sleep an hour earlier, or turn off your blue lights and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
So, beautiful. So I do want to go deeper into metabolic health and sugar levels, because I know this is your passion, and you mentioned insulin being really the key player in this whole spectrum of hormones when we transition into menopause and working with hormones.
Yeah, that was the missing piece, the blood sugar balance, which then when I was on my health journey, I did everything right, and yet though I did not connect that I was still heading towards insulin resistance, and I did not connect that I did start my morning with which I thought was healthy smoothie, which spiked up my blood sugar straight away in the morning, and then obviously I was hungry about an hour after, and it sort of it was, like I said, the missing piece. And once I started to learn about the blood sugar balance, everything glued together, and my blood sugar, my metabolic health, and my metabolic flexibility improved 100%. Mm-hmm. So some of the listeners might wonder that what is the metabolic flexibility.
Yes,
So
I
that,
will ask you.
yeah, it's the ability to effectively switch from burning fat instead of sugar. So most of us are sugar burners, and we don't even know about it, and that we are. 80% of Americans are metabolically unhealthy without even knowing it. And this is very alarming because I didn't know. I thought that I was leading healthy life. I didn't know that I was spiking my sugar for years on daily basis. And I thought that I was doing healthy choices. So when we are metabolically unhealthy, we increase our risk of heart disease, cancer, diabetes, obesity. Obviously, it leads to lowered immunity, and we have learned hard way how important the immunity is through this recent pandemic, and it leads to hormonal imbalances, and obviously then increasing the perimenopausal and menopausal symptoms. But the good news is that if you are metabolically flexible or willing to take those steps towards it, these conditions can be reversed or prevented by the way you eat, you move, you think, and you sleep. It's not more complicated than that. So you're never a lost cause. I hear women say, yeah, so many times, oh, I'm in menopause. It's too late. And that's not true. It's never too late. So many of these hormones are addressed. I addressed earlier, especially insulin and growth hormone, testosterone, and estrogen are modulated by food, detoxification and cycled ketosis, and the timing of the meals.
Mm-hmm.
So losing fat after 35, when sort of or when we enter into this perimenopause, it's not about the discipline. Like in my 20s, I wanted to lose weight. I went into a 2-week special K diet, which now when I look back, it's like, oh my God. But I was able to, when I restricted my eating, I moved a little bit more. I lost that weight in 2 weeks. It doesn't work, and that's why women get so frustrated that they're so disciplined that they give up everything, and yet though it doesn't work. But it's after we enter into this perimenopause and especially menopause, it's all about what you eat, when to eat, and how the food talks to your hormones. So you feel then energized throughout the day. You will start burning fat instead of storing it. You'll fit into your clothes. Obviously, you feel physically and psychologically and emotionally satisfied. And obviously, when you're metabolically healthy, you add more life to your years. So I'm sure that your next question is, how do I do this?
Yes, you guessed
It's information overload. I'm so passionate about this because it totally has changed my life. So first step is that I have learned this hard way, that in order to lose weight and balance those hormones, the first thing to do is open up those detox pathways.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, your cells they're like holding on to that fat. Your body is recirculating the hormones. We are affected on what we put in and on our body and what we breathe. Sometimes we can't control all of that in the world we are nowadays living on, but there is, again, so much we can do. And the detoxification and doing regular detoxification, it helps you to clean your liver, and the liver is the main detoxification organ. And it helps you to eliminate those recirculating tired hormones that are clogging up your metabolism. So how do we do that? Is opening up the detox pathways. Very important, daily bowel movements, sweating, movement. And I'm not talking about cardio, which is actually more detrimental to women in our age than it's doing more harm than good. Movements, walking, swimming, yoga, something which is restorative. sauna, or better yet, infrared sauna, dry brushing, coffee enemas to clean the liver. Castor oil packs are amazing. Epsom salt baths. It's just, again, these are not complicated or costly. There's some things. I'm not talking that you have to do all of this, but incorporating some of this on your daily habits helps you so much. Then obviously, non-toxic personal care. Women are inundated with so much toxic personal care. It is a slow process. I'm not saying that you need to take the black bag and go and empty all your personal care. But next time when you buy something, do your research and see that it would be a better choice. It's not, for example, deodorants are so dangerous for women if they are containing toxins like aluminium. They are blocking your main detox pathway, the lymphatic system, and they're so close to your breasts. So just choosing the non-toxic personal care creams, shampoos, anything that, especially when it stays on your skin. It pains me to go outside. It's super hot here, and people are lathering themselves in the toxic sunscreens and spraying them on their kids. So there's so much research about the sunscreens in general. I don't personally. We live in quite hot climate, and I don't even use. I condition myself, being Scandinavian. I'm quite fair, but I condition myself slowly to sun without burning, and then I use coconut oil, and so far I don't burn so much. And obviously, I make sure that I'm not in the midday sun, and I know there are certain measures you can take. And then, going to your kitchen, switching the plastic containers. Plastic in general, it's not very good for our hormonal. It's a hormonal disruptor itself. So switching plastic containers in our kitchen and bottles to glass or stainless steel. If you're living in a very toxic in the middle of the city, or if you suspect that you have mold, obviously if you have mold you need to get away from there, but temporary measure using air purifiers. And then obviously the food, trying to eat local, organic, farmers market, eat liver loving foods such as cruciferous vegetables, leafy greens, bitters like dandelion greens, lemon water, eliminating refined carbs and obviously sugar, and drinking purified water. And then obviously adding daily movement, daily walks, like I talked about. But for women in particular, strength training, it's the one. And I'm not talking about that you go and pump the iron. Not at all, but short, so the 15 to 20 minutes, maximum of half an hour. Even body weight training, there's so much online. You go to you find YouTube tutorials and even body weight training, which helps you to build the muscle, and in return your muscle helps you to increase your metabolism. So it's so important to look after our hormones, as they do dictate how we think, how we feel, and how we look. So, but the good thing is that there's so much you can do, and you can start doing something about it straight away, starting with your fork.
Yes, start with your fork. Thank you so much for that. And I'm so glad that you bring all those subjects. We are going to actually talk more about in some of the interviews about exercise too, and how cardio is not necessarily the best choice for women, especially in the perimenopausal and menopausal period. And strength training and even just body resistance is so much more beneficial for the hormones. So thank you for bringing that up. I think this is very important. So, what can we talk briefly about hormone replacement? I know you're very passionate about it, but if we get to the point where we really made a lot of changes and we got testing and it's still not, our hormones are not balanced, is that a good time to maybe inquire into hormone replacement? What are your thoughts on that? What would you advise?
Yes, if you have, and this is obviously my personal opinion, there is very little information in the mainstream about alternatives, which we have just talked about.
Mm-hmm.
Mainstream is just pushing the hormonal replacement therapies. And unfortunately, speaking with so many of my clients and I know reading, my background is in human resources. So I get lots of information about that, especially in the UK at the moment. They're saying that they're running out of HRT from the pharmacies and women are freaking out. But at the same time, there is not any information available on any alternatives what they could do. So it's, in my opinion, it's not the first port of call. But like you said, if you have tried everything, absolutely, nobody should be living in pain, and women deserve to feel better. So if you have done everything, if you have looked in your hormones, if you are looking after your metabolism, if you are eating healthily, if you are exercising, if you're doing all these other steps, then absolutely, I would go to more bioidentical hormones rather than HRT. And there's so much information available, and there are practitioners who are offering help with this. Absolutely. Nobody, like I said, we all deserve to feel energetic and not in pain and not in misery. So absolutely. But my suggestion is to do the steps first and see if it works.
Yeah, the same thing with testing, right? First, do all the steps and change your diet. Start with the fork, do detox and exercise properly, and then, right, we can delve into more complicated issues. But just briefly tell us, like, what happens if a woman in this scenario where they have not made changes and they actually offer replacement therapy? What happens with the body?
They are synthetic hormones, so it's like taking a pill. There are side effects which are related to increased cancer risks and the heart risks and all sorts. It's everybody's own choice whether they want to jump on that. Like we talked about earlier, we are unfortunately living in this fast-paced society that we are conditioned that when there's a headache, you take a painkiller. When there's a tummy ache, you take something else. There's always pill for every ill. And we're not sometimes willing to wait and do the work because holistic approach requires a little bit more work and dedication, and it doesn't work straight away. So sometimes we are too quick to jump into these solutions, and whether it's about the information or whether it's somebody's choice to try because they're saying that the HRT is working immediately and they're not willing to wait. It's everybody's choice, and I know we have to respect that. But because it is synthetic, it's not natural. It is different than some of the supplements. I, for example, and many other holistic practitioners recommend to tackle the same issues. They just take a little bit longer.
Okay, great. So I know you have a special gift for our viewers.
Yes.
Can you tell us more about what it is and how it will help?
It is, again, related to metabolic health. So I've created a free gift for you. It's a 5-day sugar detox. So it gives it gives you 5 days guidance of how to sort of so to say wean off sugar, and it educates you on metabolic health and how sugar reacts in your body.
Fabulous. This is a great place to start if you're asking yourself, what's my first step? Well, you got it right now. So I love that. Thank you so much. And thank you for your generosity offering this. And if you were to, just leave us with something that you feel is very important to remember. I know that you've already told us a lot, but like a few words that everybody should carry with them after this interview.
I think that the most important thing which affected my own health is that especially for us women, we always look after everybody else. We are wives, mothers, daughters, especially in our age. I call it the sandwich age, that you have your own children, if you have your own children, and then your own parents starts to age. So you are sort of thrown in to look after these both generations, and then you have your work and your commitments, and you're wearing many hats. But the most important is you can't like they say that you have to put on your own oxygen mask first, because you can't pour from the empty cup. If you are not looking after yourself, and if you are constantly neglecting yourself, whether it comes your hormones or health in general, it's from our age onwards, it just starts to decline, and when you don't feel your best, you don't have any energy, you cannot give to others. So look after yourself.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for that. I think this is so important in our fast-paced reality where we have to be responsible for everything, but if we're not, we have to first be responsible for ourselves. I really appreciate you bringing that up. Well, wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing. I think that this is, if for the viewers, like if you are not taking anything else from this summit, I really want you to take this. It's like you can start with small steps and changing your lifestyle with simple, cheap methods or methods that are completely free, and it doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be overwhelming. You don't have to run to your doctor right away just because you want a fast response. It actually makes sense to take a bit of a time and discipline yourself in a way that's maybe not a discipline, but actually nurturing yourself and knowing that you're helping your body by introducing those changes. So beautiful.
Absolutely.
Yes, well, thank you, Petra, so much. It was a huge pleasure to have you here, and thank you everybody for coming on the show again and watching and listening and taking your steps. And please go to Petra's website to get your free gift and start it today. Okay, this is my challenge for you. And another challenge, come back on the show, because we're expanding on those subjects and you're going to be delving deeper or getting other recommendations and help on how to improve your energy, hit that ideal weight, live a happy, healthy life. And that's what we're here for. So thank you again. Thank you, Petra. And thank you, everybody. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.